we want to build a service that is predictable and that is accessible 24/7.
And welcome to Slater Pod. Today we are really happy to have Andre Bastia on the pod. So Andre is the co-founder and CEO of HappyScribe, an all-in transcription subtitle platform. Hi, Andre.
Hey, Florian.
So where does this podcast find you today? What country, what city?
Thank you first for welcoming me to you today. I am based in Barcelona, in Spain. I've been living here for around 3 years now, and yeah.
There you go. You got a Paris map for those who see, who watch it on YouTube. You got a Paris map in the back, and you have some Ireland connection, as far as I remember. So now we're in Barcelona, which is one of the hubs for kind of language industry, localization, all things in that space. So yeah, we should probably do something in Barcelona at some point, some conference. But anyway, tell us more about briefly, tell our listeners and viewers a bit more about your background and kind of the initial origin story behind HappyScribe.
That's gonna be a fun one. So the professional background is gonna be rather short. I did study I come from the southwest of France, where I did my high school and everything, and then I went to Paris, studied kind of a business, more related topics, and after that I went to Ireland, where I did a master in e-commerce. So it was half technology and business. And just did one internship in the middle in the UK, in London, where I was working for Intuit, which is like a big US fintech. HappyScribe started in the middle of that master. So I was doing this qualitative research around social entrepreneurs in Ireland, and I was looking at their motivation and aspiration. So I would go every once in a while and go interview one about and trying to understand what I would be doing. And once I did 12 interviews, I went back to the university, and the researcher in charge of the research came to me and was like, okay, that's great. You did all these interviews, but now you got to transcribe them. And and I'm like, okay, cool. I had no idea what transcription was, or I had never done this in my life. So I go back home and I start transcribing, and I'm like, I do the first 10 minutes, and I'm like, okay, this is literally going to take me ages to do it. Basically, I do 1 hour. It takes me around 6-7 hours to do 1 hour interview. And I'm like, okay, it's impossible that I spend just 40-50 hours transcribing interviews for this master. I really didn't have the time. It was, end of the year, final projects and everything. So I kind of go in the living room and I start talking with my flatmate, who is now the CTO of the company, Mark. He was doing his bachelor thesis on computer vision and artificial intelligence. And we started talking about this, and we're like, okay, maybe let's try to find tools online, things that could help. And we couldn't really find anything. Knowing as well that we were students, so we couldn't pay external transcribers to human resources to do the job. And so we ended up playing a bit with Google Speech to Text API that was released on the exact same day. And it was not amazing, especially at that time compared to the results we're getting today. But this technology, the speech to text technology, could help me and my research group save between, 30 to 50 of the time we would spend transcribing interviews. So I started using it. My research group started using it, and I think 1-2 days after, we started receiving emails from PhD students, researcher in the university. They were like, guys, we've just heard about what you were doing with this speech to text. Can you come in my lab and install it? That would change my life. And Mark and I were the two of us kind of business oriented. We had tried to launch a free startup before. We were a lot in the ecosystem in Dublin and everything. And we're like, okay, that's interesting. And so we kind of locked ourselves for 48 hours, the time of a weekend. And we started building the first version of what would become HappyScribe, with a web interface and all the backend behind. And the month after, we kind of launched, started having 10, 20 people that were using, because we had posted the link on some forums and everything. And right after, we get I think maybe 2 days after, we get an email of this journalist in the US that is guys, I saw your tool. it's a game changer. Like I'm gonna write an article about it, and yeah, and the article go out, and it's basically like it basically goes viral. Like we receive like more than 50,000 views on the website, and the website keeps crashing all the time. And that was really like a pivotal moment. That's really when we decided, okay, there is something much bigger to build from this. And this is when we took the decision to basically start Happyscribe, and from that moment we went full time on it, really.
That is insane. That's like instantly compressed the entire startup journey in like a couple of weeks, right? So like from like notice the problem, find in a sense like a alpha version, build it, product market fit, like going viral with an article.
It was so insane and so intense at the same time. Like we were like answering customer tickets during the night and doing our exams during the day. But I think we learned so much on that phase, on this early like stage, because it was like one of the things that was really interesting, that we were seeing all this industry and a bit less today, but still like with a completely new eye, without any sort of like previous experience in the market. So like we were not trying to build a transcription tool. We were trying to build a tool that will help journalists save time.
I mean, you don't immediately comprehend the entirety of whatever has been there before, right? You just see who's coming and knocking at your door, and then, okay, that's those are the people that we're building it for. Wow. So a lot has happened since. So give us the, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 key milestones over the past, 5, 6 years since you've been online.
I mean, after this happened, I think it took us like maybe 1.5 years for Mark and I to understand the industry. So the first 1-2 years of Happyscribe, we were like in full opportunistic mode. We were taking every single project that was coming to us. We had like some TV broadcasters coming to us and asking us to do subtitles in one language with human resources. We had never done that before, and we were saying yes to everything, and we were just learning. But after these 2 years, we're like, okay, like doing this opportunistic approach is nice. We're learning a lot, but what do we want to do with Happyscribe? Where do we want to bring this? What do we envision for the future? And this is really when we decided to like focus a lot on like the product, but the product in the goal to kind of work out the speech to text technology, to be able to work on the fundamental problem, which is the AI itself, the model itself. Why? Because we realized that we were in a position that is quite exceptional, where we're like, Happyscribe is as well like at the same time a product for the users, but at the same time a data engine that is processing a lot of information. And when you look at the industry, and I think the latest model of Whisper like kind of brought that back, is that like to get a very good accuracy, actually, it's like data is one of the most important assets that you can have. And so that's kind of like the strategy we took. And on the product part, it was more about like, okay, how can we build like an all-in-one platform for language needs? We saw like in these first years, companies that would have transcription, translation, subtitle needs, both with human and AI. They're not, I would say like, they don't work the one a part of the other. We see a lot of companies using the two services. And so in the last 5 years, I'd say like there's been different key points, but like it's been really building this kind of unified platform for these language needs. And yeah, so like trying to have this one stop for language services.
You did touch on it, but let's kind of flesh that out a bit in terms of the offering. So subtitles, transcription, translation, but then in terms of the market you're looking at, is it still mostly kind of individual, I guess, maybe journalists or creators, or are you also branching into more kind of SME and enterprise, and how do you price it for the people that haven't been on the website yet?
We started targeting completely like individuals. And we started doing a switch that is quite recent. I think probably like 6-7 months ago, into like trying to focus much more on companies and teams. We want to build like a platform that is like where collaboration happens around languages. So like where you have like basically what we realize is that like all our customers are not individuals; they're actually individuals working as part of a team, and the transcription work is not used by just one person; it's used by multiple person. Same goes for the subtitle or translation. And so this is what we're trying to do, is like bringing the collaboration part in these different services that we're providing.
That must be pretty hard, right? Moving from like even just on the pricing side, adding seats and things like that. Is that a really hard transition, or
We're still doing the transition. Like we, until today, our pricing, for example, was really like transactional. So we would charge per minute, per hour, because from like our knowledge, that's what made sense looking at the industry. Now, like we're gonna try a few things in the coming weeks, including like a more per seat type of pricing for these teams. Yeah.
so when we did a bit of research before this podcast, we were looking at like a Series A, a Series B, a Series C, and some tens of millions of dollars of funding going into the company. We didn't find anything. So the only thing we found was some, I think, from Competitive Start Fund in Ireland or Enterprise Ireland, like kind of a more government related, maybe kind of an initial seed funding. Like, have you guys been bootstrapped since day one, or have you raised any money from investors?
No. We've been bootstrapped since day one,
Wow.
which might change. But yeah, so far we're bootstrapped.
I guess that's what like 5 days from idea to product market fit gives you, right? The freedom to bootstrap.
It gives you the freedom to bootstrap, and I think bootstrap. So like, there's no like there's no right way. And like when you're VC funded, you can you build a company in a totally different way. But when you're bootstrap, it really like forces you to focus on what brings results. Because you have limited resources, both in terms of money and people. And so you never work on something if you're not guaranteed. You never invest too much time on something if you're not guaranteed that it's going to bring like result. And in that case, for us, it was more revenue.
In a 2017 interview, you said that you were using the Google Cloud Speech API. You just said it before as well. And I kind of want to understand, as much as you can disclose, like, are you still working mostly off the Google Speech API, and how much kind of secret sauce and customization goes into it? Because we've been using at Slater some other products that also use the Google Cloud API, and I got to say that your results are, from like the very little sample that we've taken, are superior. So can you just tell us a bit more about how you add kind of the custom layer on top of the API?
This is kind of old, 2017. Things have kind of changed since. We started with Google Speech API. At the time, that was pretty much the only option, with Amazon Transcribe, I think. With the years, what we started doing is like one of the points that I described as really important is the multilingual aspect. So what we started doing is we started running like kind of like frequent benchmark of all the providers that were available, and started learning about more providers as well. And like, we've worked with like Speechmatics, Assembly, like we've worked with like a lot of them, and we've benchmarked like pretty much everyone. And we always like kind of switched the route to like the most performing AI for our customers. So we got to a point maybe where we were like working with 5 different providers. Our goal really was to provide the best solution for our users, not to like get one partnership with like one of these companies. And today as well, like we're taking a step further, and we're now like also working on our own models that are already available in some languages. And I think this is going to be more like the future of where like or where is it going to come from, the speech to text.
So it was Google, then kind of more dynamically routing, and now obviously it's a core part of your company, right? So you want to kind of own more of that. Yeah, understand. Do you allow customers or subscribers kind of to customize certain things like jargon, language, maybe if there's noisy audio? Like how do you adjust for that?
Yeah, we have a few things, not that many, but we allow people to add like their own vocabularies. So that would be like one of the first things. they can add like their text. Let's say you're doing interviews about, I don't know, a given topic, and there is like this jargon or like this company name, these acronyms that are coming back and forth. You can add them on this piece of product, and the machine will like do its best to recognize them on future files. We also like, so that's for the AI part. We also have like, I didn't mention, but we have like this human made transcription service. So like this more blind marketplace that we provide to our users. And in there, like we build like customer dictionaries. So like to keep more consistency or like over time, our transcriber are storing like, like speaker names or acronyms, anything that could be very specific to that user. So we're like, we have more consistency over time. So like that's for like the more transcription and like transcription part. But then like we, on the subtitling side of things, we also enable people to like customize kind of the CPS, the number of character per second, the number of character per line, the space between the caption, and really having this on a project basis. Talking about like customization, if there is a reason why we want also to work on our own AI, is that enables us to provide much more customization to our users. One of the things that we're looking to release in the coming month is like having being able to store and save the parameters of any user voice. So like, let's say you upload a file between you and I, and you're gonna enter on that specific file, well, like this is Florian, this is Andre. On the future file that you will upload on AppyScribe, because we will be able to, we will know that this corresponds to the voice of Florian, you won't have to retype that speaker name anymore. And over time, that brings like significant, like that make our users save a lot of time.
So our audience is kind of geared towards the translation crowd, and so we're not super familiar with the metrics used in transcription. Like for quality, is there like a particular metric that you're using, or a set of metrics? And if yes, what are those?
Yeah, so like there is three things really. First, on like the AI part, the metrics that we use are like, well, you have like one that is commonly known, which is like the word error rate. And we're kind of like going away from it recently because it's not as accurate, or like it's not as representative as it used to be. But I think, yeah, because like you basically, like in the early days, like the progress were so big that like you could really see like on the word error rate, the progress being made from like 2%, 3%, 5%. Now, because like we're getting into like this last mile of making ASR works perfectly. You need something that is much more subjective. You need to be able to capture the difficulty of the audio. You need to be able to capture any subjectivity in the file, like anything that could be subject to interpretation. With a word error rate, if you have the number 3 transcribed in numeral, and the machine is going to transcribe it in writing, in letters, it's going to count it as wrong. But it's the same thing. So like, this is why now we are working more. We're using the kind of word correction rate, what we call, and we're looking at the time basically that our transcribers spend, and the number of words that our the number of words that our transcribers, internal transcribers, are correcting on these transcripts.
It's similar to machine translation, where it's like there used to be this metric called Blur score, which everybody used, but now it's almost like it's at a level where I'm told it's kind of becoming a little bit meaningless.
Yeah, and just in like, and then we have like on the human more transcription, there was not really like on the translation world, you have a lot of frameworks that you use to like analyze the quality, and so what we've been doing and working for like our human service is really building our own. We're gonna build a derivated from the MQM, the multidimensional quality model, and try to really do something to evaluate that, like we stay on top of quality. So it's basically what we're doing.
I briefly mentioned machine translation, so it's also one of your features, and it's part of this kind of all-in stack that you're building. But also understand, I guess, at the heart of the platform is transcription. So how do you think about machine translation or even human translation, and what kind of technology are you using there? Because that's kind of, in our view, that's its own giant universe of like, options you can plug in, and 20 different APIs you can call on.
Yeah, so like for machine translation, we've basically we're working with two providers that are pretty like common, which are like DeepL and Google Translate. And like we give the priority to DeepL, and like any language that DeepL doesn't do are going to Google Translate. At the moment, is as simple as this. We haven't planned to like work on model on this, or like really dive much deeper into the problem. Translation is still like very early in the services that we provide. We're seeing more value on the foreign subtitle part of things than actually like translating files or like text files or transcription. And so we might be doing some work this year, but right now we prefer like keeping it simple and really like giving it the abstraction, and just the user can select the language and get the results.
Talking about subtitling, it's kind of ironic that there's this boom in video and audio, of course, content, but this is also driving, I would assume, a huge boom in transcription and subtitling, because like a lot of people, when they're consuming content, on, I don't know, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, they can't actually listen to it because maybe they're in a, I don't know, in a public transport, they don't have their headphones on, and then subtitles become really, really important for like having a piece go viral. How do you see that? And is that driving some of the signups to your platform, that people are looking for like a quick subtitling solution?
This is kind of huge. Like first, like it's not that they cannot listen to it. Is that like on a lot of these platforms, the default mode is like audio off. So like if you want to capture the attention of someone on a video without having the audio, the only thing that you can try is the caption. There is like a couple of metrics that I was looking at, and they're quite interesting on that point, which is like I think you have like around 92% of people right now that have watched videos with subtitles and with no audio, and 69% that have watched video with sound off in public spaces. So like every time, and think about it, like every time you look at your phone on a mobile space, on a public space, there is like 69% that you'll have the sound off. What we saw at Abiscribe over the last 3 years is growing interest from influencer agencies that are coming to us and that are like subtitling almost all their content creators.
So you're saying they don't do it themselves?
No.
They have an agency.
Maybe some are doing it. And then you have the last piece that is like about accessibility.
Correct.
Sadly, I don't think it's the number one reason at the moment, but it's having a big impact to be able to subtitle for that.
So how does the subtitling differ for like a TikTok, a 30-second TikTok, to like I don't know, a 5-minute YouTube, to then, I mean, maybe we don't have to talk about this, but like obviously the high-end Netflix, like show, like what are some of the differences? Maybe also in the visual display.
Yeah, it's completely different because you have like different formats. The video are like vertical or horizontal, and so like you need to follow like guidelines that are very different. So you'd have like maybe on a horizontal video you have like 40 character per line, for example, but on an horizontal video you would be more at a vertical video. Sorry, you'd be more at like 25, 30 character per line. Now like it all start as well with you have the format, but it all start with your audience. When you do subtitles, you don't use the same guidelines if it's a content for kids or if it's a content for adults. Kids will have like character per line, like a number of lower character per second, where like adults will be able to read more character per second. So like, it's like subtitling is more kind of an art rather than like a science of like you do this or this. And that's where all the complexity is. What we're seeing at Abiscribe is that like a lot of customers, because we're seeing subtitles everywhere now, a lot of customers, a lot of like people that come to us don't understand the complexity of subtitle, or like just think that like the common knowledge that well, you want to get subtitle, you get a transcript and you break it randomly. But you need a very deep language understanding to be able to do subtitle. You need to understand the structure of a sentence to know where to break. It's much more complex. Doing subtitle is easy. Doing subtitles that are readable is a tough job.
What I find a little bit irritating, but also interesting, are these kind of karaoke style, like where like every word, or sometimes like even like it's just one or two words like per line, and you can barely read along. Yeah, it's probably for this kind of 5-second reptilian attention captioning, right? So you guys also offer what do you call human-made translation transcription. Like, how much of a part of the business is that already, and like how do you manage or think about going forward managing that complexity of becoming like more of or expanding into like an agency type of model versus being like the more kind of pure SaaS type of business?
We don't manage it as an agency at all. Like all this human service that we started providing came from the fact that like we had like this list. We've always received like a lot of applications from transcribers, subtitlers, translators. And so I created this like type form where people were storing their information. And I was like, maybe we'll get back to you if we launch that service one day. And what I was surprised is that like I think a third of them said like, which company have you worked for? And they were saying Appiscribe. And I was like, that's interesting. And so I started contacting them and getting in touch. And what was happening is that like we had users that would like do the AI transcript on Appiscribe and then take the link, share it on Upwork, and get someone to proofread it. That was what was happening, really. And so I was like, okay, that's interesting. And so we started launching it, and we saw a lot of traction because when you have like, AI transcription is great. We have customers sometimes that need to subtitle, transcribe maybe 20, 30,000 minutes a month. In that case, it's very hard to go proofread your subtitle by your own, and so that's where we're bringing value. Now, like on the way we provide the service, from the time the customer upload the file to the way we're gonna pay the transcribers to like the transcription, like the entire process, the review process, everything is automated. We don't work on special projects, or very rarely, meaning that like we have our set of guidelines that transcribers needs to follow. And we never go like we don't change them for a client or for a specific client. We aim to provide a solution that covers kind of like a 70-80% of what people usually need, not the 20-30% that are very special. Like just to give you an example, right now, for example, we exclusively do clean read transcripts. We don't do verbatim. Or for subtitling, we do 41 character per line. We don't do less, we don't do more. We do like we go for like the industry standard, and provide a solution that help them to save time. And even though like if you go like all the prioritization of the work and like the queuing system, all of this is like fully automated, meaning like, like I think right now we have maybe around 600 or 700 transcribers. And we have like one person that manage like the queuing system internally.
So it's more like enabling your customers to kind of DIY this and giving them access to a pool of transcribers, right? And then would they still send like some kind of protected link and have people work there, or?
We don't take this. So the file need to be uploaded on the platform. They need to upload on the platform to select the language, and everything is happening in Appiscribe, meaning that or like we aim to serve customers that want to access as well to the full product suite of Appiscribe. So we have like, we have like some clients that have like 30 employees, and all these employees are on Appiscribe and have their workspace and the different folders based on like, I don't know, different creators they're working on, or like and they use human transcription or AI depending on what they need. But that's where Apiscribe is really interesting in terms of like offering for business, is that like it's this one place where they can like just do a request for human, do a request for AI if they don't have time, and go on. And then it's like it's really standardized, meaning that we guarantee 99% accuracy. You get your job reworked or you're refunded if we're not able to reach it. We guarantee you 24-hour turnaround. And for an extra, we can even get like 7-8 hours turnaround on transcription. But like we want to build a service that is predictable and that is accessible 24/7 on this part.
So that's where you, I guess, differ very much from the also some of the other competitors like Verbit or DeepGram that either just purely API or very much kind of in this enterprise space. Is that, and also they're like heavily funded, right? I mean, Verbit's basically a unicorn. I mean, they've raised like I don't know, couple $100 million at like $1 billion valuation. Is that something you think long term might be part of your strategy, or you're saying no, we want to build this like fully automated kind of SaaS-like DIY platform?
I think like if we go for enterprise, like we have a few enterprise customers. It's not like the big focus as for now. We focus on like teams and like more SMBs at the moment. But if we go for enterprise, we wouldn't be going for enterprise on like agency mode. Meaning that we wouldn't customize model for customers. Like we would provide like enterprise more on like, okay, on the product level. Like Apiscribe is a deeply product company. We want to build something that is really scalable. And if you start like, I think it would be hard. And then, so that's kind of like the way we take.
So now it's hard to keep pace with all the AI stuff over the past, I don't know, week, month, half a year, but like something that already feels a bit like ancient history is Whisper, but actually it's only like a couple of months ago. So that Whisper launched and created a huge buzz. Like, what are your thoughts around Whisper, given that you're building now your own models, just generally? And do you think it will have a lasting impact on transcription, or it's just another iteration in this like whatever? Every other week we have a new thing launching cycle.
No, Whisper is a massive change. Is a big change of paradigm in the AI sphere, because it's the first model. Like first, it's showing that like having a lot of data really make a difference. Second, it's the multilingual aspect that is kind of impressive. We work on our own model, but our own model are based on Whisper. And what we add after this is the fine tuning. I think like some thoughts on Whisper was that I think it's been trained on so many things and that were not necessarily like created, that the machine started having like a lot of hallucination. You would like lost track of what it was transcribing and go completely like nuts on some things. And that's where like the work that we've been doing at Apiscribe is like really like being able to improve based on like this model based on our data that is like much more clean and that we have full control on. Then like I think like these models in general, like that are released from like this productly, is the main problem is probably going to be more like on how do you build a model that is like aware of the current news. In the transcription space, what we've seen multiple times is all these models were breaking when there was a major world event. When COVID happened, like impossible to transcribe COVID for 4 months. So like the user had to proofread COVID by themselves. Like same, the war in Ukraine, like all these like names that started appearing, none of the AI were able to like transcribe them. And so I think like this is going to be a very interesting point, is like, and it's like to really build like a model that is like usable in like the newsrooms or like in the end, the stuff is like being able to like train constantly on data. And it's also one of the reasons why we work on our own AI, is because we need for our customers, because this is a big pain they're having. We need to be able to like provide them with an AI that is aware of the latest like jargon in the world. And the final thing is that I think anyway, in the AI space, there's still some work to do on building kind of an unbiased model. These models are still like quite biased towards men, towards like like not really like understanding minority accents, and that's something where we can make, I think, like where these models can really make some big improvements.
Probably should know this, but how much open source is Whisper? I mean, like, is it just plain out there for everyone to see, or you can like, how does that work? How do you build something on Whisper?
Whisper model is completely like open source.
That makes it easier.
I mean, recently you've had like in the last few years, I think Facebook released one 2 years ago on the speech to text that was quite good, and that we started working on. Then there's been like another one by a group of researchers that I don't remember the name, but yeah, like these models, they come up frequently.
We did talk about it, just you mentioned it now, but this whole kind of hype, generative AI hype, like, are you, it's really just like a couple of months old, I guess, this very latest hype. I mean, X Whisper, how do you think about this? How fundamental is it? How much hype versus actually something you think is going to change your business in the next 12 to 24 months is in this current, I mean, we got to call it what it is. I mean, it is in a sense a hype cycle. I mean, we all use ChatGPT. We all were blown away, but 3 weeks later, we're all like, well, it's cool, but like, now, am I going to write the 50th prompt and get like a cool answer, or am I going to just go back to something productive? What are your thoughts about that?
I'm super excited about this. Think about like, you have, I don't know, 50 transcription about, you're doing this user research for Slate, or I don't know, like you want to analyze how people are using the website. You have the 50 like interviews, and you're like, okay, like in the past with qualitative research, what you would do is that you would listen and transcribe every single interview, and you would go there and tag by themes what people are talking about. With a Whisper, maybe you can get to a point where you can say like, okay, what are the main themes that people have been talking about in this interview? And can you give me the top 5 quotes about it? I don't know. Like that's a huge time saving. Like, I think like, I mean, the hype right now is really on like things that we will never use in the future, and like asking questions that no one really care about. But like, there's gonna be like, once you pair this with actual content, it can be transcription. I think the impact can be really big. We work with like, journalists, or a lot of people transcribing meetings. Like you say, okay, can you write me like summarize this meeting in 5 bullet points, up, done. And honestly, I tried it a few times with like some of our content, and it's kind of impressive. And then the final thing is that like, now think of ChatGPT paired with a perfect speech to text engine.
Like a working Alexa.
Right. A working Alexa that we've all been waiting for. We've been sold for years.
Correct. And also, I guess for you, it's particularly exciting because your specialty is almost building the front end to this, right? And that's what a lot of people are now scrambling to get done. Like, okay, we got, in a sense, the back end not sorted out, but like it's taken a leap. And now everyone's trying to do a proper front end, which you have like a 5-year head start.
IPscribe is like, maybe like our top skill is like building great product, building great UX, making people like, making transcription, subtitle, translation easy for anyone. You are like communication team, I don't know, in a big company, you can get your subtitle in 5 minutes. You don't need to learn anything about it.
Got it. So tell us more about what's on, whatever you can share on the roadmap for this year. Any exciting launches you can disclose for our listeners?
Yeah, so I mentioned before, like there's probably going to be some changes in the pricing, although it's going to take a bit of time. That's going to be something that it's going to be really interesting. Then in the products, things are being defined as I'm speaking right now in another room. But what we're looking to work on is so basically at Episode, we believe that people don't care about transcription. Subtitles is kind of the core of everything we do, that they care about what they're going to do with their transcript and what they're going to do with their subtitle. And so on a product part, like the vision is really to like look at what people are doing one step before they get transcription, and looking at what people are doing one step after they get to transcription, and really build this product within Episcribe. So it can be, we work a lot with production companies, and they need to highlight to know what's going to go in the final doc. Okay, how can we enable this on the platform? And really, like, same for researchers that I mentioned before. You do this analysis. Okay, how can we help you make this analysis faster by directly working on your transcript with Episcribe? This is where we're like looking to go.
Got it. Good luck with that. And thanks so much for this. This was a fascinating conversation. Thanks.
Thanks, Fire.